Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about Standard 4. So Standard 4 says ecosystems change because of immigration, emigration, population growth capacity, and interspecies and intraspecies competition. So we're going back to this idea of ecosystems, which came from Standard 3. So remember, an ecosystem are communities and the abiotic factors they interact with. Remember, communities are groups of populations. So we're looking at all the living things in an area plus the abiotic factors. Remember, abiotic factors could be things like the temperature, the climate, the amount of water that they get, rock formations, soil type, anything non-living, but that affects living things. So that's what an ecosystem is. And remember, there's this thing called equilibrium, where ecosystems remain the same for thousands of years. So the number of individuals in the ecosystem stays the same. The abiotic and biotic factors are all very stationary for a long time until something changes. So this standard is all about how those things change and how equilibrium gets disrupted. So that's what we're talking about with Standard 4. How do ecosystems actually change? One way that ecosystems can change is by immigration. And immigration happens when individuals move into a population. Remember, a population is a group of individuals of the same species living in the same area. So like all the squirrels in Union County would be part of a population. Immigration would mean squirrels from other areas come into Union County. So maybe there's a big construction site one county over, and all these squirrels come into Union County. That would be immigration. And you can remember, immigration with an I, in with an I. So immigration with an I is when individuals move into the population. Emigration with an E is when individuals move out of the population. So this would be like maybe we start building stuff in Marysville and squirrels are now moving out of Union County. That's emigration. And you can remember emigration with an E, exit with an E. So with emigration, they're individuals exiting the population. So both immigration and emigration affect the ecosystem because they're affecting how many individuals are actually living in the area. So that disrupts equilibrium. Because remember, if the ecosystem's within equilibrium, the amount of individuals are staying the same. So both immigration and emigration changes how many individuals are living in a population. The next thing that can change the ecosystem is the carrying capacity. And another term or another phrase for carrying capacity is population growth capacity. So they mean the same thing. You can use either one. But the carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals that can live in one area based on the resources. So only a certain amount of squirrels can live in Union County. If there's too many, they're going to run out of food or shelter or water. They'll run out of the things that they need. So based on the resources available, there's going to be a carrying capacity. Only a certain amount of each species can live in an area. So if the carrying capacity changes, the ecosystem will change. So maybe there's a drought, right? And a lot of plants die out because they're not getting enough water. That would change the carrying capacity of other animals living in our area, like the herbivores or the herbivores or the omnivores. Maybe there is a flood, so too much water, same idea. So the carrying capacity, if that changes for whatever reason, the number of individuals in our population, the number of individuals that can live in the population will change as well. So carrying capacity could go up. So maybe we plant a bunch of trees. So now the carrying capacity for squirrels would be higher. More squirrels could live here. But maybe we cut down a bunch of trees, then the carrying capacity would go down. So again, it's just a number of individuals that can survive based on the resources available. And again, if it changes, the ecosystem is not in equilibrium and it will change. Another thing that can change ecosystems is competition. And competition, just like you would think, is a fight for survival. So the fight could be over space, could be over food, could be over mates. It could be over anything, really. So competition is just fighting to survive. So every single population is trying its hardest to survive. And there's two types of competition. One is intraspecies with an A. Intraspecies competition is when species of this or members of the same species are competing. So this is like giraffe versus giraffe, right? They're fighting for survival. In the picture, they're doing this thing called necking, where they ram their necks into each other until one of them either gives up or their neck breaks and they die, right? And what they're fighting over in this case is a mate, someone to mate with. But other interspecies competition happens, right? They're going to fight for food or water, whatever they might need. They sometimes fight among their own species. So that's one type of competition. The other is interspecies competition with an E. So interspecies competition, this is when members of different species compete. So in the picture we have our lion and our hyena. If you've ever seen Lion King, you know this, but they go after the same prey. So they're constantly fighting for food. They're competing against each other to get the food the first, the fastest. They want to survive over the other one. So interspecies is when you have members of different species trying to get to the same thing. Again, same idea with competition though. And with interspecies competition, sometimes you have a species called an invasive species come in. An invasive species is a non-native species, meaning they're not from the area, they didn't evolve here, they're coming in, usually because humans introduced them, right? So we'll do things like move firewood from one state to another. And this introduces, for example, the emerald ash borer, which is in the picture. So these are parasites that kill ash trees. And they were only in one part of our country, but because people moved firewood, they spread to other parts. And invasive species are really dangerous because they usually do not have a predator in this new ecosystem. So they get out of control, right? They just are going wild. And these emerald ash borers can do a lot of damage. Invasive species can destroy an entire ecosystem sometimes. So this is an example of interspecies competition with a new species that doesn't have a predator. So invasive species can be really dangerous. This is why you shouldn't move firewood. This is why ships have to empty out where they hold water before they switch into a new lake or a new river, because they're carrying things that are not native to the area. And because they don't have a predator, they just take over. All right, so all of these things change equilibrium. They all affect the ecosystem and cause it to have to change as well. So what you're going to do now with this standard is you're going to take that beautiful ecosystem you designed before and you're going to introduce a change. So you'll want to pick one of the changes from this list to introduce to your ecosystem. So check the link on Schoology for more information. Best of luck and let me know if you have questions. Thanks, guys.